Jacob and Laban have made a covenant not to harm each other. Esau and Jacob have made amends and have went separate ways. Jacob is now settling in Shechem, but there is someone in Shechem that has their eyes on Jacob's daughter and wishes for her hand in marriage. Will Jacob give his daughter's hand to this man, or will hostilities break out between these two people? Let's find out. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Tally Talks Bible. Now, I'm going to finish up here with the Jacob story. We last left off. Laban and Jacob had made a covenant not to harm each other. Esau and Jacob had made amends and went separate ways. Jacob has now decided to settle in Shechem. But things in Shechem aren't going to go too well for him. Just as a disclosure, there's going to be some abusive type of language that is used in this chapter. So if you have young ones that you do not want to hear this, you might want to steer them away from the video or fast forward a couple minutes until that has gone away. Or if you're just uncomfortable with it. I'm going to skip over chapter 36, being that the reason for it is because it's just basically a list of genealogy of Esau. And it's a long list. It's just name after name. It's important. It's good to go and read it for yourself, but I'm not going to just sit here and list off a bunch of names in the video to bore y'all. So with that being said, I am going to get started, but if you do notice, I do have a shirt. I had a shirt made. This is just kind of like a promo to see what we could do with the design, with the logo. I'm going to have more made. In the future, I plan on probably doing like a giveaway and stuff like that. Maybe like a shirt. I've got some stickers ordered. Stickers are on the way, and maybe looking into doing some hats because it's the majority of my videos I'm wearing a hat. But that'll be in the future, not for right now. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So let's go ahead and pick up on chapter 34. Like I said, right here, it's right out the gate with the language. So if you're uncomfortable with abusive talk, you might want to fast forward at this part. So we're going to start now. Now Dinah, the daughter Leah had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the ruler of the area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. So right out the gate, this chapter is talking about how Jacob's daughter, Dinah, has just been taken and raped by this man. And it may mention that now she is defiled, because that is something that back in these times, in these ancient times, that if a woman was to have intercourse before marriage, she was considered unclean. Which even in today, she was raped. That's not okay. But Jacob's not going to take it like some people think a father would. So let's continue on. Then Shechem's father, Hamor, went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it and trade in it and acquire property in it." So right here we're seeing this man's father is trying to plead with Jacob, saying, "Hey, settle here. Settle with us. Intermarry with our daughters. You can trade here." Trying to set up a good agreement. There's no mention of the rape. And at this time, Dinah is pretty much their captive. She's not been released. She's still in the city with them. And you're not going to hear Jacob say a word until the end of this chapter. And he's not going to say what you think. But right here, it's also making mention of them staying there when, God has already told them, hey, go back to your land, to your relatives. There's not really much reason why he's here at this point. But he is, and look what's going on. So let's continue on. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask of me. Only give me the young woman as my wife. Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully, as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, we can't do such a thing. We can't give our sisters to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go. Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man, who was the most honored of all his father's family, lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. These men are friendly toward us, they said. Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters, and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people, only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us agree to their terms, that they will settle among us. Okay, so here we go. It already talks about how they were speaking deceitfully when they made mention of this, meaning they're not going to want to hold up to their end of the bargain. Circumcision is being called out here. This is a reference back all the way to Abraham. This was the mark of the covenant with God, was the circumcision of all the males. So this tradition has been carried on. It's been carried on, from Abraham to Isaac and on through Jacob. So they're telling them, hey, this is part of our belief. We cannot do this unless your males get circumcised. So they convinced them to do this. And it's made mention here too, talking about that. I guess they assume that, okay, that we're going to have their daughters, we're going to have their livestock, and everything is just going to intermingle with this people group. So let's continue on and see what's going to happen. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came up upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the house. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. But they replied, should he have treated our sister like prostitute? What we have here is Jacob's concern was for all the people groups that would come up on them afterwards. So here we see that Hamor and Shechem, that it's making mention of like the Canaanites and everything, because they're in the area, they're in the land, that these are probably relatives of the Canaanites. And Jacob's concern is that because of this, that all these people that are going to come in that are related, or like maybe in agreements, trade agreements, or whatever with this people group, that they're going to come to their aid because of what they have done, which, by the way it looks, is they completely annihilated the whole group of people. And the reason why it says here, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute, is because that was their full sister. Dinah, Levi, and excuse me, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Simeon, sorry. Simeon, Levi, and Dinah, they were all full-blooded siblings, whereas, most all the other siblings are half siblings. So they had a closer connection to her. But now, now they're going to be headed back off, and they're taking all these women and children from Shechem here. And God's going to come to Jacob and tell him where to go next. Jacob returns to Bethel. Then God said to Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Get rid of your foreign gods you have with you, and purify yourselves, and change your clothes. Then come, let us go to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under an oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. So right here we're looking at they're wanting to go back to Bethel. And if you remember at the start, when Jacob left, he came across this area and God spoke to him. And he saw what a lot of people are talking like it's the Jacob's ladder is what it's referred to, and it's an area to where Jacob saw heaven and earth together. He saw angels going up and down and everything else. So he's like, God is in this place. God must be here. So he put up a rock and said, "This is a holy place." So that's why he's calling out to them, "Hey, get rid of all your false gods, your idols, everything else. Get rid of that." I mean, he's talking about the earrings. And also, if you remember, somebody had snuck off some idols when they left Laban. So this is a callback to that. So all that was buried, earrings, anything that had to do with any other gods was buried in the sand. So after that, he's going to continue on. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak outside Bethel. So it was named Allah Bukkoth. After Jacob returned from Padam Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel, and God said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac I also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you." Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Jacob called the place where God had talked to him Bethel. So now they're back there, and he's really, making it holy by putting the oil on it and everything else. And he's also calling back. It mentioned that he had changed the name to Israel, and that all these nations are going to come for him. He's recalling the covenant that he made with Abraham that went on to Isaac. And now he's telling him, "Hey, it's still with you. And it's going to continue through you, through his 12 sons." I know I may mention about the whole deal when he wrestled with God before, and I didn't think he was going to have any more children. It does make mention later on that he has some more daughters, but he doesn't have any more sons after Benjamin. So at this point, the wrestling with God and everything, it doesn't mention like how much time has really passed, but in the context, we're assuming that it's not that long. So um, Benjamin was probably already on the way. And that's going to be talked about here in this next part. So let's get to it. Then they moved on from Bethel. While they were still some distance from Ephraim, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, "Don't despair, for you have another son." As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Ben-Oni, but his father named him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephraim, that is, Bethlehem. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal-Edar. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. So here, Rachel died, which was his favorite. That was his wife. That's who he worked 14 years for her hand because he was tricked by Laban into marrying Leah the first time, but stayed and worked another 7 years to get Rachel. And Rachel was his favorite. So they're saying here too, it's talking about how the midwife was saying, "Don't worry, you have another son." I'm guessing in the context here that they're like, maybe we're trying to save her instead of the child, but she didn't want that to happen because having a son back then, that's what carried on the bloodline, the name. So when mentioned that, that's what she was talking about. And then it also comes and talks about how um, they were moving. I don't know why. It doesn't really give context of why, because God said, "Hey, settle here in Bethel," and they moved on anyway. It doesn't give any context of why they moved. And as they kept moving on, Jacob's son, his eldest son through Leah, Reuben, goes in and defiles the concubine Bilhah, because next in line to be, the top wife would be Leah, which was Reuben's mother. And this was keeping Bilhah from getting that position or being even considered for that position, because Leah would have been her competition. So now it's going to sit here and we're going to have a small list of all the sons of Jacob. And it says, Jacob had 12 sons, the sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Ishkar, and Zebulun, the sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin, the sons of Rachel's servant Bilhah, Dan, and Naphtali, the sons of Leah's servant Zilpah, Gad, and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padan Aram. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre near Kirith Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years. Then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, old and full of years, and his son Esau and Jacob buried him. So now that's it for Isaac. Isaac has done passed on and was buried by his wife. So these 12 sons, they're important. They're going to come back up later on, and it's all going to tie in together and make sense. Chapter 36, like I said, it's just a list of genealogies and everything else. It's very boring to read, and I'm not going to bore y'all with reading it all out in this video. After this, we'll start talking about the sons of Jacob a little bit more. Some things are going to happen that we're going to look at, and it's going to come back and tie into things that there's going to be a lot of callbacks, and things of that nature. And it makes a lot of sense once you break it down. So that's going to be it for the Jacob series. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. And as always, God bless.